I would now like to invite on stage our next keynote speaker, General Manager, Cloud Product Strategy, Red Hat Inc., Mr. Bryan Che, who will give us a little more information on how you can build your open hybrid cloud today. Mr. Che, please.
Good morning and welcome again to the Red Hat Forum. It's so exciting to see all of you here in Singapore. My name is Bryan Che, and I'm responsible for our overall cloud and product strategy at Red Hat. I'm based out of our Boston area office in the United States. Now, this is the time in most keynotes when people will come up and they'll talk to you about, these are the big business challenges facing you. You're running into these problems and all these different issues, and here's what you need to learn about what's happening within your IT organizations. But I don't want to talk with you about that today. I want to have a conversation around a little bit different topic this morning as we consider the role of technology and as the role of IT going forward. And I want to talk about a very, very important question, which is, you guys already know what are the challenges that you face within your own organizations. This is evident to you. But what I want to talk to you about is, what happens if you don't respond to the challenges that you're all facing right now? What happens if you don't act now and you just let things go on as they continue to have been going for the last several years? Well, I think the challenge facing all of us is that if we do not act now, then what we face is extinction of ourselves as enterprise IT organizations. This is a fundamental change that we are addressing in the industry right now, and our very roles as IT professionals are at stake here. So this is the topic that I want to discuss today. What is the future of IT organizations, and what happens if we do not respond to all the different technology changes that are currently traversing through our industry and our businesses? Now, why is this such an important issue, and why do I claim that our future is at stake? Well, the reason for that is we've had the rise over the past few years of all these new mobile and different cloud services, particularly in the public cloud. And what happens is that all of you guys now are carrying your mobile devices, and they're connected to public cloud services in the back end, to Google, to Facebook, to Amazon, and so on. And this is true not just of you, but it's true of every one of your customers within your enterprises. Every single one of the users that you service from a professional standpoint has their own personal IT department when they go home at night. Their personal IT department is able to provision them new applications and workloads instantly on demand. If they don't like a particular capability, they can instantly find a new set of capabilities. They can respond in real time to all sorts of different uses and demands that they have, and they can instantly collaborate with one another. So these different services in our own personal lives are setting the agenda for what everyone is starting to expect from an enterprise IT standpoint. And the question for all of us is, how can we as IT organizations start to deliver that same experience, that frictionless IT experience for our end users? Because the challenge is that if we don't, then our customers are going to bypass us. Because this transformation is not just happening in our own personal lives. You guys have all seen that all the new enterprise public cloud services are also starting to penetrate into our business environments. What that means is that our lines of business customers now for the first time have the opportunity to procure IT on demand as a service, not just from us as organizations within our business, but directly from different vendors and with a first-class experience that has been set in terms of what they expect from a personal standpoint. So the challenge for all of us is, how can we start to deliver that same frictionless IT experience for our customers? Because the risk is, if we don't deliver those capabilities, then we become irrelevant in this new age of cloud and mobile and big data. Now, it's not enough for us as IT organizations just to focus on delivering that frictionless experience, because all of you know that we are responsible not just for providing the services that our end users require, but we are also tasked and chartered with protecting the businesses that we are responsible for. We're tasked with making sure that our businesses are secure from attacks and hackers who are trying to penetrate our businesses and networks. We're trying to make sure that we're compliant with all the different regulations that we face within our industry and from different legal organizations. We're tasked with making sure that everything about our data is secure and responsibly managed. And in short, IT is responsible for two things. How do we make sure that we can deliver this great experience for our end users so that we can serve their needs, but we also have to protect their interests. And it's not enough just to say we're going to move to this new frictionless IT world. We've got to do it in such a way that we continue to protect the interests of our customers. And that's really the challenge that we all face before us as IT organizations. How do we serve our customers in this new world of frictionless IT and of mobile and cloud services? How can we deliver this brand new experience on demand for our users, while at the same time making sure that all the protections and all the different governances that we place on top of our users do not take away from that frictionless experience, but instead enhance our ability to deliver capabilities on behalf of our customers? This is a very challenging issue. It's not easy to be able to place and deliver both of these capabilities simultaneously. But I'm going to talk a little bit throughout this morning's keynote in terms of what are some of the ingredients and what are the steps that we can take as organizations and as professionals to try to deliver both of these on behalf of our customers. How do we serve their interests with a frictionless IT experience, and how do we protect their interests with security and governance and so on? So let's talk about that frictionless IT experience first. Now, there's three things that you've got to focus on if you really want to be able to deliver that frictionless experience, that really, really consumable, friendly, consumer-like experience that our customers are starting to demand of us. The first is your services have to be easy to use, and this is very intuitive, right? You've got to make it easy. That's by definition frictionless. But it also has to be integrated. You can't have all sorts of different silos of different services that don't work together. Otherwise, no one is going to be able to find and leverage all the capabilities that you're trying to deliver. And finally, they have to be innovative, because let's face it, if you're delivering decades-old technology or even 2 years old technology, no one's going to want to take advantage of the stuff that you're putting in place. Everyone wants to take advantage of what's new and what's capable. You've got to deliver these three things together if you want to provide this frictionless IT experience. Let's take a look at what that looks like in a little bit more detail. So first of all, how do you make your software and your experiences easy to use? Now, no one has ever accused enterprise software of being easy to use, and that's certainly true today, especially when you take a look at a lot of the newer technologies that are starting to overtake our industry today. Think about all the things that your users have to do in order to procure new enterprise services. They have to go through some kind of help desk service, and they say, please give me some new infrastructure, or this new application, or this new service. And then it takes you, weeks, if not months, to rack that up. You've got to configure it. You've got to teach your users how to use it. You've got to deliver it. It's got to be able to be trained in terms of, here's what you do with this user interface. Here's how you install it. It's a very, very complicated set of things that you're responsible for, and it's certainly not easy to use. Now think about technologies like OpenStack, which are now starting to overtake our industry. OpenStack is certainly not an easy-to-use technology. In fact, just read any of the articles out in the media about OpenStack, and one of the things that people are always talking about OpenStack is, this is the wave of the future. This is cloud computing. But it's really, really hard to set up and really hard to use. And this is the challenge that we are faced with solving. How do we make these next-generation technologies easy to use? And this is what Red Hat is focused on, because we're here to provide solutions, not to tell you about your problems, but to deliver you real capabilities in terms of how you make your software and your experiences more easy to use. So let's go back to that OpenStack example. One of the things that we just recently introduced a few weeks ago to market is a new virtual appliance instance of OpenStack. You can go right to Red Hat and download a virtual appliance, even runs on your existing VMware environment. All you have to do is boot it up, and now I have OpenStack running across my environment. We take away all the configuration, all the installation that you have to do around your software. It doesn't get much easier than that. It's just as simple as downloading a new application to your smartphone and running it. Now, this is a fantastic way for you to be able to now get OpenStack into your environment and to start playing with it. There's a workshop that we have later today, which is going to highlight a lot of the things you can do with OpenStack, but one of the things that we're focused on is how do we make OpenStack an enterprise-grade and consumable technology that's easy to use. This is a very concrete way that we are making that happen, solving the configuration and installation challenge so now you can instantly start playing with OpenStack without having to go through all the cumbersome processes of how do I get it up and running. So making technology easy to use, first step towards creating a frictionless IT. Second thing you've got to do in terms of creating a frictionless IT experience is you've got to be able to integrate your different services together. Now let's go back to that personal smartphone experience because I think it's illustrative of what we have to do. Now, all of you have received calendar invites and responded to them on your phone, I'm sure. Now, I've got a meeting with this set of people in this particular location. And what do you do on your phone? Well, I get my invite. I can click on the address. It takes me into my map, so I can navigate there. It's got my list of contacts, so I can click to see what are they doing on social media, what's their LinkedIn profile, what's their latest tweets. So I show up, and I'm prepared for my business meetings. If all these services were not integrated together in your phone's experience, if I had to go to a different web page for every one of those services and have a different login, you would not take advantage of any of those capabilities. And you would show up to your meeting unprepared. But the fact that all these services are integrated together, that is what makes this set of capabilities frictionless and easy to use. And it's the same way from an enterprise standpoint. If you've got the latest and greatest technologies, but none of them work together, people are not going to take advantage of them. They're not going to find them. They're going to be too hard to use. And you're going to spend all this time building out capabilities that no one is going to leverage because you don't have the workflows and integration points across your services. If you want to deliver a frictionless experience, all the new enterprise services that you deliver not only have to be easy to use, but they have to be easy to use together. And this is something else that we're focused on at Red Hat. For example, we have a cloud management product at Red Hat called CloudForms, and this is a screenshot of our product. Now, one of the advantages that we have in our cloud management product in CloudForms is that this, just like our new OpenStack offering, is delivered as one single virtual appliance. I boot it up, and in 5 minutes, all my management capabilities are fully up and running. Now, this is in contrast to all the different other management suites in the market today. And I emphasize the word suites because suites is a code word for I have all sorts of different technologies and products, and I release them to you as a bundle, but they don't work together. You're going to have to go through all these different login screens and try to tie them together. What we're focused on is how do we give you that single virtual appliance, that single pane of glass that now gives me one management console across everything that I'm doing. Really easy to use. But integration doesn't just stop there, because you have to integrate across your IT environment. You've got to integrate the new and the old and the diverse. And one of the things that you see here is CloudForms can manage a lot of the latest and greatest cutting-edge technologies. In this case, we're working with two really, really hot open source technologies called Kubernetes and Docker. Now, if you're not familiar with these, Docker provides a next-generation set of packaging capabilities for how do I run cloud-native applications across very, very small microservices and Linux containers. And Kubernetes provides me an open-source framework for how do I describe applications running on this next-generation platform. There's some really cool videos that we've got on YouTube. If you're interested in this stuff, I encourage you to just search for CloudForms and Docker and Kubernetes. You'll find it. But the point is that we can integrate with all these great new technologies, but also your traditional infrastructure, things like VMware and Microsoft, of course, Red Hat and Amazon and so on. You heard about NTU earlier during Damien's keynote. And so with CloudForms, we provide an integrated experience in the product itself, but also now for you the opportunity to integrate across your entire IT infrastructure. So that's the second thing you've got to do to deliver a frictionless experience. How do I make it easy to use, but how do I make it integratable so people find and consume all the things that you have to deliver? Now, the third thing that you have to do, remember, is that your services have to be innovative if it's going to be adopted at all. No one wants to use old technology. If you guys are still delivering the same old that you were doing 5 years ago, it can be easy to use, it can be integrated, but no one's going to want to take advantage of it. Now, every single vendor under the planet is going to tell you that they're innovative. I don't want to tell you that Red Hat is innovative. What I want to talk to you is about how do you start to deal with some of the challenges of innovation. In particular, 3 things. How do I make sure I get a continuous stream of innovation? I don't want to just get some innovative new feature. As soon as I cut a check to my vendor, I stop getting any new feature functionality because my business is done. How do I make sure that I continue to get that stream of innovation? Secondly, how do I introduce that innovation into my organization? Because if I take something that is too revolutionary, it's going to be too hard to get into my organization. And thirdly, how do I make sure that I can consume and I can leverage and use that innovation so I get value out of it? Those are the three questions that I want to focus on from an innovation standpoint. So let's take them in order. First off, how do I make sure that innovation pipeline keeps going so that as soon as I install that product, not only am I getting something cool now, but I can make sure that I continue to stay on the cutting edge of technology? Now, this is one of the things that Red Hat is very, very much focused on as our business as an open source vendor. If you take a look at all the new innovations that are happening across industry, whether in cloud, whether in mobile, whether in big data, whether in social, every single new feature and every single innovation is now built first in open source before it becomes pervasive across the rest of the industry landscape. And one of the things that we're focused on Red Hat is how do we deliver that stream of innovation across open source into you as enterprises. Now, this is a picture of the entire Red Hat product portfolio. I'm not going to spend time talking about it, but one thing I do want to highlight is that every single one of our products is entirely 100% open source. We do not have any proprietary software at Red Hat. And the reason for that is we do not know of a better way to make sure that we can continue to take advantage of innovation other than tapping into this broad community of open source innovators. You are not dependent upon Red Hat engineers to have to invent every single new capability that is going to come to market. And in fact, we don't depend on ourselves being able to do that. What we depend upon is the innovation of the overall industry. That technology is going to continue to march forward, and that technology marching forward is going to tap into the power of community in open source. And we want to make sure that you have access to that continuous stream of innovation. And so the open source model is the best way to make sure that not only do I get innovation now, but I can continue to tap into every single new trend and feature functionality that is going to continue to come over the years. So that's how I can make sure I continue to take advantage of innovation and that pipeline doesn't dry up. But how about introducing innovation? How do I make sure that if I want to introduce innovation into my environment, it is not too big a step function? So let's think about this car company. I'm sure you're all familiar with Tesla, one of the most innovative car companies in the market today because of their entire electric vehicles. Now, as cutting edge and as innovative as Tesla is, Tesla did innovation right because they introduced innovation only in one area. How do I run and procure energy across my vehicle? Everything else about the car is exactly the same. I still drive on the same roads, I still steer it the same way, still use the same pedals, still obey the same traffic laws, and so on. And so Tesla is very innovative, but it is innovation that is easy to consume in our existing context. Now contrast that with this. This is a Terrafugia, and it's a really, really cool device. This is a car that transforms into an airplane, and I bet all of you would love to have one of these things. But just imagine if Tesla had leaped forward towards this vehicle as the first thing that they brought to market. We would all love to have one of these things, and the technology exists to build it, but we can't support this kind of innovation yet. We'd have to retrain all the drivers in terms of not only how do you navigate on the roads, but how do you fly an aircraft. We'd have to update all the regulations across the industry. How do you deal with your traffic, air traffic, and commercial aircraft and these private vehicles on the road? How do you even support the infrastructure to put in place for supporting vehicles that can go in land and air? We have no idea how to deal with all these things right now. And so the point is that I can't introduce innovation in such a way that I throw away everything I've ever done before and I instantly move to the new. Innovation has to be introduced in a way that is consumable and usable and at a measured pace. And that's the same thing from an IT perspective. Let's take a look at how we can start to introduce innovation into our enterprise IT departments. And we'll take a look at cloud applications, because this is one of the things that everyone is talking about, but it's a big challenge for how do I move my application infrastructure from today's traditional 3-tier scale-up architectures to this new world of cloud applications that scale out. It's a new innovation. Everyone knows we have to get there. The question is, how do we do it? Now, in this picture, you see a stack diagram. And on the left, you see, this is what probably a lot of your data centers look like today. I've got physical infrastructure, probably running x86 hardware. I've got some kind of storage attached to it. I've got my operating system. Of course, Linux plays a part. And I've got some kind of virtualization, whether with Red Hat or VMware, with Microsoft or some other company. And then I've got traditional 3-tier architecture. I've got my database. I've got my middleware application stack. And then I've got my web front end. And I've got some management capabilities on top of that. So how do I start to introduce new scale-out architectures from this traditional application architecture? Well, with Red Hat, we're very much focused on how do we integrate and introduce new technologies at a very measured pace. For example, you've heard a lot about OpenStack. I've talked about it. You'll have the opportunity to learn more about OpenStack later on. OpenStack is a scale-out next-generation infrastructure as a service cloud platform. Now, when you move to OpenStack into new cloud architectures, one of the things that we advocate is you do not have to do everything at once. Instead, you can take things a step at a time. For example, with that 3-tier architecture I spoke about, you can start to put OpenStack next to your traditional virtualization and then take the most natural part of your traditional application architecture, the web tier, and move that towards a scale-out platform. So now I run my web tier scale-out at OpenStack, but I continue to run my middleware, and I continue to run my database on traditional scale-up virtualization. But we're running this on the same operating system, the same storage, the same servers, and my management tools can also manage both traditional scale-up virtualization and OpenStack with CloudForms and Satellite. And so now I've integrated these two platforms together, and I've got a natural step in terms of how do I introduce new technologies at a measured pace. And we can keep going like this, because once I've had OpenStack and I've got it up and running, maybe I want to move to platform as a service and all the great technologies you heard from Damien around all the things we can do with OpenShift. Well, we can do that too. We run OpenShift on that same underlying infrastructure. We manage it with those same tools, and then we integrate it. I keep my database running on virtualization. I move my middleware over to OpenStack now. And then I deploy next-generation middleware and next-generation scale web tier on top of OpenShift. The point is that I can have a gradual evolution of my application architecture towards cloud native without having to throw everything away that I did before, because we are integrating below, we're integrating above, and seamlessly tying everything together. So how do you introduce innovation into your enterprises? It can't be something where you throw everything away and I move entirely into the future, because that just doesn't work in real life. And this is how we're helping you do it at Red Hat. Now, the third question, how do I consume innovation? It's very important that as you take a look at innovation, and I talked about all the cool things that are happening in open source, that you can actually bring that into your enterprise. There's very, very few businesses on the world today that can tap into that upstream open source community unfiltered and bring it back into their organization. And you guys know this because you guys are dependent upon all sorts of things like life cycles. My software has to be able to run up to 10 years or beyond, and I've got to be able to support it. You've got to have support capabilities, someone I can call or someone I can contact if something goes wrong with it. I've got to have certifications. I need to know my software can work on my hardware and with my application ecosystem. Innovation, by definition, is new, so I've got to learn how to use it. I've got to be able to have experience helping me deploy it because I've never done something like this before. You've got to make innovation consumable if you want to introduce it into your enterprise businesses. And this is something else that we're very much focused on Red Hat, because we focus on working all that innovation in the upstream open source community and then making it consumable for you as enterprises in a very enterprise-friendly manner. So we have training and certification programs so you can learn how to use this new technology. We've got long life cycles so you can have a stable platform that you can run your business upon. We've got consulting services to help you adopt and deploy these capabilities. And of course, we deliver world-class support. And so one of the things we focus very hard at Red Hat is how do we take all that innovation and make it consumable for you, because you can't tap into that innovation stream unfiltered. It's got to be consumable from you as a business. So we've talked about all these different things in terms of how do we make your IT frictionless. It's got to be easy to use, it's got to be integrated, and it's got to be innovative. But guess what? This is just the beginning, because all the stuff that I talked about, this is not what's going to come in the future. This is the world that you live in today. Your customers are already going to the cloud. Your customers are already experiencing a lot of these different services. The problem for you is that they are not doing it with you as an IT organization. This is what most enterprise IT organizations look like today. From your on-premise IT perspective, even if I've developed all these great services, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, virtualization, business applications, my customers are still going out to the public cloud into separate silos, Salesforce.com, into Amazon, into Google, and all these different places, and getting all sorts of different applications. A small set of infrastructure, larger group of platform services, and an even larger group of software as a service applications, and they're all in different silos. The question for you is, how can you start to bring all your IT experience and capabilities and start to bring these together? And this is something we can already do for you today. That CloudForms product that I spoke about, that nice integrated management capability, we can unify across all these different environments, because with one single pane of glass, CloudForms can manage and procure and provision across public cloud services like Amazon and private cloud services like OpenStack or VMware or Microsoft. And so we can provide you with integrated security, integrated policy, integrated orchestration, and unify across all these different environments. But remember what I started with at the beginning. We're focused on delivering frictionless IT and new capabilities. If all I do is I install CloudForms on top of these different silos, yes, I've solved something, but I've solved how do I protect my business. You guys also have to deliver this hybrid world of new applications to market. Now, when we take a look at how do we deliver these new capabilities, the biggest challenge that our end users face is how do we build applications faster, and how do we deploy these applications more quickly to the market? Because this is what everyone is trying to do. We're trying to respond to our businesses and the business pressures that we all face by getting new stuff to market more and more quickly with higher and higher reliability. And one of the big things that the industry is focusing on in terms of how do we deliver these applications more quickly is this new trend of DevOps. Now, what is DevOps? It's really simple. DevOps is an IT process where we say we don't like the old way of doing IT applications, where every time we need to get a new feature to market, we have to build a brand new application, and it takes us months, if not years, to build this huge monolithic application and roll it out to market. That's like saying every time I need a new house or I need a new set of capabilities that I'm going to live in, I'm going to destroy my old house and I'm going to build a brand new house and I can move into that later. Nobody does that in real life. And similarly, why should we do that from an IT perspective? DevOps says, instead of building a brand new house every time, let's just remodel the house that we have. We can change our kitchen, we can extend our bedroom, we can repaint the walls. And every single time that means that we make a smaller change, we can get that change to market much more quickly, and we can take advantage of it. So DevOps is an IT process for how do we start to deliver new features incrementally at a much faster cadence or velocity. And a lot of the practitioners of DevOps today have shown that if you do this right, you can get some amazingly good results. This is from a report called the State of DevOps Report for this current year. And this is just highlighting Amazon in terms of their cloud services and some of the results that they've been able to achieve by implementing DevOps. Amazon rolls out 10,000 new deployments to market every single hour across their cloud. These are new capabilities or updates to code across Amazon's infrastructure. Huge, huge velocity when you consider how long most of us take to put just one enterprise application out to market. Despite the fact they're rolling out 10,000 new features per hour, very, very small downtime, 0.01% outage rate. And so with DevOps processes, because we're focused on these small changes that we're releasing to market, not huge monolithic applications, not only can we get them to market quicker, but we can also have more confidence that the changes are more reliable because we're dealing with a very, very small footprint of change in the code itself. Now, DevOps, as I mentioned, is just a methodology, but you want to pair this methodology with technology as well if you want to take full advantage of it. And there's a lot of new things that are coming in the technology space that goes hand in hand with DevOps. One of the hottest technologies today you've probably heard of is Linux containers matched with Docker. Now, what Linux containers focuses on is how do I provision new instances of applications in a very scalable and agile and dense way. When you take a look at provisioning time for traditional hardware, if I've got the best IT process in the world, it probably takes me a little bit more than a day to get a physical server up and running. With virtualization, which a lot of you have taken advantage of, we've been able to cut that provisioning time down dramatically into just a few minutes. But with next-generation container technology, which is now shipping as part of Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7, we can cut down that provisioning time into just a few seconds. And so what we can do is when we pair this new technology, which gets new capabilities to market so much more quickly, with this IT process of DevOps, which is focused on how do I introduce these applications quickly, I've got a great match for how do I start to pair technology with process to deliver new innovations into the market. Now, we don't want to just teach you about processes and what's here to come. We want to deliver you solutions because that's what you're here to learn about from Red Hat. And we can package all these things up for you as one integrated solution. For example, we have our OpenShift platform as a service. You've already heard about it a few times from us over the course of this morning. Now, we have a new version of OpenShift, which is coming to market shortly. And what this new version of OpenShift does is it integrates all these new technologies that I spoke to you about. I told you about Linux containers and Docker and how quickly that provisions new workloads. That new application model with things like Kubernetes and how to describe cloud-native applications. New versions of RHEL, which support these new capabilities. These are all integrated and bundled together for you in one easy-to-consume solution. Because remember, we're talking about frictionless IT. How do I deploy these things in an easy way? And how do I make it easy for developers to build applications in the cloud and take them to market? And this is what we can do with OpenShift. We can wrap together all these great new technologies and make it frictionless and easy for your end users to deliver. And this really focuses on sort of the state of the art today in the data center. How do I move to cloud-native applications? How do I integrate it? How do I make it innovative? How do I make it easy to use? But the industry and the market is not standing still today. So think about all the things that you're doing today. Everything pretty much runs in the data center. But is that always going to be true? Think about the Internet of Things, where when you take a look at all the different industries, from manufacturing to retail to back-end devices on your handsets and so on, all your applications are moving to all these different edge devices, and they're going to have to run in a smaller and smaller footprint. They're going to have to integrate together even more than they have to do in the data center. All the things that I just spoke to you about. How do I run in small Linux containers? How do I integrate? How do I make things easy to consume? They become even more important when we move these capabilities out of the data center and into our edge devices. And this is where Red Hat is driving things. And this is what we're focused on as we take a look at what is to come. So these are a lot of the things that we think about here at Red Hat. How do we make your IT experience frictionless? How do we help you consume it? How do we make it innovative and so on? And these are the big questions that you guys are faced with as IT professionals. Because as I spoke about at the beginning, remember, we're at a phase where if we do not take advantage and start to change ourselves, we face extinction. Now, I invite all of you, as you go through the rest of the Red Hat Forum today, we've got a lot of different talks, a lot of different workshops and opportunities for you to think about these very, very important questions and to learn about Red Hat's perspective in terms of here's how we're starting to address a lot of these different issues. I encourage you to take advantage of them, and I thank you very much for coming. I hope you find this a productive day today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Che.